Hi, this is Gabe from FluentForever.com. In this second video, we're going to be talking about Hebrew consonants, and Maya will be helping us out with the examples.
Hi.
So Hebrew has 22 consonants. If you speak English, 19 of these are going to be familiar sounds, and only 3 are really new. That means we don't have very much work to do here. We're going to spend most of our time introducing you to some of the letters that generally make these sounds, and then towards the end, we'll talk about how to make those 3 new sounds. So, as we get into these consonants, I'll be giving you a bunch of example words. And while I provide the Hebrew spelling for each word, feel free for now to focus primarily on the IPA. It's going to be much more useful while we're focusing on individual consonant sounds. We'll be starting with 15 really straightforward sounds and IPA symbols.
There's B as in ביצה, F as in פילוסופיה, G as in גינה, M as in מכונית, N as in נשיקה, P as in פרדס, Z as in זמר, H as in הר, and Ts as in צמר.
You'll note that here the IPA is actually 2 syllables.
This is a combination of T and S sounds. Ts, צמר. We also have K as in כפית and קופסה.
You note that here we have 2 different letters in Hebrew that are producing the same K sound. And this happens for several sounds in Hebrew. Moving on.
S as in סימן and שמחה. V as in עבודה and עיוור. U as in whiskey.
Well, this, incidentally, is a non-native sound to Hebrew, meaning that it's generally only used for foreign words that have recently found their way into the Hebrew language. You won't find any biblical passages, for instance, discussing whiskey or anything else with the W sound in it. The last of our familiar sounds and symbols are Hebrew's T and D.
Those are T as in טקס and תרופה, and D as in דרכון.
For all intents and purposes, these are the same sounds in Hebrew as the T's and D's in English, and you can go ahead and use your English T's and D's without much of a problem. That said, if you want to get really picky about it, these sounds tend to be a tiny bit lighter in Hebrew than they are in English. And by that I mean on the T sound, you'll get a little less air coming through it.
It's not טקס, it's טקס.
And on both the Hebrew T and D sounds, the tip of the tongue is frequently a little bit closer to your upper front teeth than you might do in English. There are even some native speakers whose tongues will actually touch their upper front teeth whenever they're making these sounds. Anyway, moving on. Our next 6 consonants. These are going to sound familiar, but they'll have unfamiliar IPA symbols.
This symbol, which looks like a lowercase j, is Hebrew's y, as in yerek, or English's yard. Then comes j, as in Hebrew's beige, or English beige.
In IPA, the zh sound looks like the top half of a Z with a little loop hanging off of it. Zh. This one is also a non-native sound in Hebrew, like that w in whiskey. You might notice that in the Hebrew spelling for this sound, there is a letter and then an apostrophe-looking thing next to that letter. The letter on its own makes a z sound.
We encountered it a few minutes ago in zamar,
But by adding that apostrophe,
known as a geresh in Hebrew,
our z sound will transform into a zh. The geresh is generally used for non-native sounds brought into modern Hebrew, and we'll be running into it a few more times over the course of this video, for instance, in our next sound.
j as in gingy, or English's jungle.
This is a d and a zh sound combined in one, j. And again, it's a non-native sound, as you can tell from that geresh.
Our next sound is sh, as in Hebrew's shen, or English's shoe.
In IPA, it is a tall, scripty-looking S.
Next up, we have ch, as in Hebrew's chat, chaesre, or English's cheese.
You'll note that Hebrew has 2 possible spellings for this sound, one with a geresh and another by just combining the letters that make the t and sh sounds.
Our next familiar sound is ng, as in ping pong, or English's king.
It's an N made with your tongue raised up in the back of your throat. And our last familiar sound, this one is an odd little character known as a glottal stop.
As in Hebrew's va'avoda, or English's uh-oh.
The glottal stop is what happens when your vocal cord slams shut or pop open on a vowel. In English, we'll often use this popping open glottal stop thing for emphasis, or rather for emphasis. Hebrew uses glottal stops a little more frequently. They show up when a word starts with a vowel,
as in avoda,
and they also show up pretty frequently in between vowels.
for instance in theater, teatron,
It shows up in between the e and the a vowel.
teatron, teatron. In la'avod, it shows up in between the two a vowels, la'avod, la'avod.
In IPA, it's basically a question mark without a dot on the bottom. For Hebrew, the glottal stop is kind of a vowel emphasizer. It makes the following vowel clearer and more distinct. So when transcribing Hebrew into IPA, we'll be using a small superscript version of this symbol. That's to help focus your attention on the vowel that it's emphasizing. And now we're ready for our last three consonants. The first of those is going to be the Hebrew L.
L, as in levena.
This is a familiar symbol in IPA. It's a lowercase l, but it sounds a bit different from the L in English. In English, when we say a word like li, the back and front of your tongue both come up towards the roof of your mouth. Li. But in Hebrew, only the tip of your tongue comes up, and it reaches just behind your front upper teeth.
Li. English has li. Hebrew, li. Li, li. Our next consonant is r, as in ramzor.
It's produced using the back of your tongue, which pulls back all the way behind where you pronounce a G.
Ga, ga, ga. Ra, ra, ra.
When all goes well when pronouncing this consonant, your uvula, it's that thing that hangs down at the back of your throat, that will vibrate against your tongue. Now, as always, the more familiar your ear gets with this sound, the easier it will be to produce. But that doesn't necessarily make it easy. This consonant really tripped me up when I first learned it. I basically went around gargling for a whole summer before it started working well. Anyway, our next consonant, which looks like a capital X, but a few millimeters lower than it should be, is
ch, as in cheder, or drachim.
It's made in the exact same spot as that Hebrew R. Your tongue raises up all the way in the back, and as the space gets smaller and smaller between your tongue and your uvula,
you'll get ch.
The biggest difference between the Hebrew R and this sound is that here your vocal cords aren't buzzing at all. For many, this one tends to be a bit easier than the Hebrew R. People seem to have an easier time kind of choking themselves with their tongue than gargling. And with that, we've covered all of Hebrew's consonants. To quickly review, we began with a bunch of consonants with familiar sounds and familiar IPA symbols.
B, as in bitza. F, as in philosophia. G, as in gina. M, as in mechonit. N, as in neshika. P, as in pardes. Z, as in zamar. H, as in har. Ts, as in tzemer. K, as in kapit. And kufsa. S, as in siman. And simcha. V, as in avoda. And iver. W, as in whiskey. T, as in tekes and trufa. And D, as in darkon.
We then covered 6 consonants with familiar sounds and new IPA symbols.
There was Y, as in yerek. J, as in beige.
For this one, I pointed out the apostrophe thing, known as a geresh, which tells you that you're looking at a non-native sound in Hebrew.
J, as in gingy. Sh, as in Hebrew's shen. Ch, as in chat. And chaisre. Ng, as in ping pong.
And we talked about the glottal stop, which showed up at the beginning of words that started with a vowel,
As in avoda.
or in between vowels.
As in va'avoda, teatron, and la'avod.
Finally, we covered 3 new sounds. There was Hebrew's L.
L, as in levena.
This was an L formed using only the front of your tongue. Then 2 consonants made with the back of your tongue against your uvula. This is a few millimeters behind where you pronounce G. There was the Hebrew R.
R, as in ramzor.
And in that same spot without your vocal cords active, there was
Ch, as in cheder and drachim.
And with that, we've covered all the consonants of Hebrew. In our next video, we'll cover all the vowels.